Hi and welcome to Tales of Dread. Tonight we have some true horror stories about werewolves and dogmen. So enjoy, but don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Now, let's hear some scary stories about dogmen that will keep you from going into the woods tonight. I'm a 25-year-old man named Rain who lives in Missouri. I'll say that I'm an atheist, and the only thing I can say is not supernatural is the dogman. My first meeting is at 9 a.m. Adams River access on December 20, 2017. In November or October of the same year, I went on my first trip by myself. If you take Highway 32 out of Lebanon, Missouri, and keep going to Falcon, you will end up on Highway K. On your left, the name of the access point is written on a sign with a raccoon on it. Don't take Kiki, and keep going toward Don Road. It is the first right-hand road. There are tall pine trees all around this turn. Don Road is an unmaintained road that goes through a thick forest and ends at a big farm. After that, I recommend a four-wheel drive vehicle, especially if it has rained or snowed in the past few days. After the farm, keep going straight. You will pass a house on the left just before a sharp turn with a guardrail. The driveway to the access parking lot is the left turn before the sharp right turn. I told other investigators how to get there and told people to stay away. Can't stay away if they don't know when or where it is. This is an eerie place, dead silent. The Des Canadian River is the river that the access leads to. I came here for the first time to get a sense of the area. I like going to nature centres, so I was interested to see what this place was like and how quiet it was. Very quiet, but going down the driveway was a bit scary. You'll see a fence, and if you follow it, you'll see a red cattle gate that's kind of hidden. I took pictures of it and the rest of this area to show my girlfriend Renee. In the pictures, the red gate was closed and looked safe. Later, I started to feel like I was being watched and thought I shouldn't go down to the riverfront. I left quickly without getting scared so I wouldn't scare myself. Let's jump ahead to December 20. I was looking into reports of dogmen in the area from the last 20 years. During the summer of 2017, I found a few and heard about one by the river in Falcon. I just thought about werewolves being real one day and watched some scary movies. I found you on YouTube, which got me interested. Anyway, there was snow and ice everywhere, and Renee and I were surprised that my little car, a 1993 Subaru, made it to and from work. And as I showed her where I found the ride through the mud, I told her about the dogman sightings in the area, what we could expect, and why we should respect the woods and territory. Back then, I was a bit crazy about it. But I don't think my beliefs have anything to do with the psychedelic experience I had. When we got there, neither of us could remember what we had been talking about on the way. Renee didn't believe it was real and serious. I have schizophrenia, so I would understand, but she thought I was making things up. I wasn't the first to feel like I was being watched. We went down the concrete ramp and started a contest to see who could throw rocks onto the ice the farthest. The ice had covered the river. Then I stopped and told her I had a very bad feeling we were being watched. Renee said she had felt it before me, but didn't tell me because she didn't want to scare me. The thought of something or someone watching was terrifying, and it didn't help that we talked about the dogman on the way here. We hurried to my car to try to see him as calmly as possible. We could have been following by a mountain lion. We didn't really know what was going on, but we still thought the worst. I drove as fast as I could without getting stuck in the mud and crashing the whole time. We both had the feeling that something was watching us and getting closer. We talked a lot and shared a lot with each other. At that point in our relationship, we didn't start to relax and the feeling started to go away until we got on Highway 32. At 19, she was still living with her parents. So I took her home, and when I got there, I thought long and hard about what had just happened and if it was real. I was able to distract myself with music and video games before bed, so I did that and went to sleep. While I was sleeping, I had a dream that I was sitting in my living room with Renee when she started to freak out, twist, grow, and turn into the dogman. I pulled out my knife to defend myself, but I ran myself into a corner. I was scared and crying, and the dream ended with the dogman standing in front of me with his arms up and out, and his head coming down. I remember the hair and smell of this thing, and I'm scared just thinking about it. I then saw my house from the outside before jolting awake. I probably fell back to sleep for a few minutes and I woke up at 6 a.m. and called my girlfriend to tell her about my dream. She also had a dream to tell me, and it was almost the same as mine, except that she was the one who changed into a dogman. She told me how my face looked and how scared she was when she woke up at 3 a.m. On the same night as me, she didn't believe it was real until later. She told me that the red gate in the picture had changed. It was more broken when she saw it at the entrance. On my third trip there, I went with my friend Alex, who was skeptical, and then I saw the red gate for myself, and it was all messed up. It could have been destroyed by anything, but no one comes out here. Everything in legend and other encounter victims looks like it hasn't been touched. It is said that dogmen are telepathic, and many have had nightmares following their encounters. Many people say that they dream of seeing what the creature does when it grabs them and they can't move, as if we were stuck in a trance. They run with it through the forest until they come to an opening where their houses are and can see a strange version of their own house. I did my own research and found a lot of proof and ideas about what might have happened to the first access, which is the dry knob. On Highway 32, you come to a crossroads. If I were going from Lebanon, I saw claw marks and tree shavings, as well as big patches of grass and dirt that had been messed up. It would have landed if something had jumped. In that area, there are deer, and I could see where they went through the tall grass. Dry Knob is much bigger than Adams Access, and more people picnic and fish there than at Adams Access. When it rains a lot, there is an old, cleared path from the gravelled driveway into the woods. This area is always flooded, and from the way the plants have grown and the way it looks, it's clear that no one has been here in a long time. I found a pile of medium-sized branches that had been broken in a clear way when I got to the tree. I found a shotgun shell on the path near the door. It was under some old leaves. It's against the rules to hunt here. Afterward, I've calmed down and put my research on hold. I thought I was going to go into uncharted territory that was best left alone. Last night, my sister, my friend, and I were exploring an old mill near my house. We got into the first house and are now climbing up to the second floor. My sister was at the top of the stairs when we heard a noise, and I was somewhere in the middle. We all saw a big, grey, furry creature that looked like it was hunched over when I shined my flashlight around the middle of the room. I saw a tail, and my sister says she saw it had big, meaty shoulders, humanoid hands, and glowing yellow eyes. We quickly realized whatever this thing was, it was probably not too happy with us being in his territory. We got out of there as fast as we could. When we walked around the house, we saw that there was a ladder going up to the second floor, so that people could get in. This made us feel very uneasy. We had to stand on this barrel and climb up a metal pole to get to the entrance, which was about 7 or 8 feet off the ground. That means that whatever this thing was probably couldn't have gotten up there the way we did. If it used a ladder, it was definitely a humanoid creature that was doing something wrong. When we got back home, we looked into what kind of animal it might have been. Since we live in Virginia, we didn't find many animals that looked like what we saw. It was too big to be a fox or a cat, and a cat's tail was different from a wolf's, so it couldn't have been a bear. This made us want to learn more about crypto. We read about the Dogman, and when we looked at the pictures that came up, they seemed to match what we saw. I read some stories about the Dogman. From these stories, it seemed like people who saw it usually became obsessed with it, and my sister, who was the only one who saw its eyes, kept going on and on about how strange they looked. She kept saying that she wanted to see it again and wanted to go back. My sister drew a picture of what she saw and some tarot card reading. After we got home, she put her cards on her sketchbook, where a bug crawled in and started running around like crazy until it landed in the middle of the deck and stopped. My friend took the top card, which was the Wolfman, and looked at it. We might go back to look into things soon, but I just wanted to tell you this story to let you know that there may be dogmen in Virginia. Hi, my name is Glenn. I live all the way south in southern Louisiana. I won't say exactly where it is, but it's about an hour from Baton Rouge and 2 hours from New Orleans. I have always lived here. I've been hunting and fishing since I was a kid. I could use a fishing pole to hold a gun. I thought I'd seen all of the animals that lived in the woods. Never believed in Dogman or Bigfoot. Now, my friends, I can say for sure that they exist where I live. I own 58 acres, which are about half hardwood forest and half swamp. Well, I met this person about 2 years ago. Check out where I live, in a trailer in the woods behind my mother's house. I don't have a drive. The only thing between my house and my mum's is a dirt path that goes through a small patch of woods. So, anyway, it was 4 in the morning. I was getting ready to leave for work when I woke up and got dressed. I went outside to let my dog go to the bathroom. Bear is a 100-pound pit bull who was acting very strangely. He'd just stand in the doorway and grind the grapes. He wouldn't leave, and when I tried to leave, he tried to get in the way. So I just walked right past him and toward my truck. Still dark, I only had a keychain light, which wasn't very bright and barely lit up the path. As I made my way up to the path, I felt like something wasn't right. It is hard to say why. If that makes any sense, it's like the air was heavy, and I could only smell this stinky piss. I just kept walking and moving forward to try to forget about it. My house is about 275 yards away. At this point, about halfway through the woods where my truck is parked, I could hear something walking behind me and crunching leaves. Every time I stopped, I could hear it stop at the same time. I could see 2 eyes about 4.5 feet above the ground that were greenish yellow. The hair on the back of my neck stood up right away, and I felt a wave of fear. Like I said, I have hunted and killed everything in this area. I'm not at all easy to scare. I have even jumped into the water and slit the throat of a 7-foot alligator by jumping on its back. But this thing freaked me out like crazy. I can't tell you why right now, but I could only see its eyes, so I had no idea what it was. I just knew it was big and put fear out into the world. I was terrified. I slowly came to the conclusion that I couldn't move at all. As I stand there and shine my really bad light on it, it slowly starts to move toward me. It was very hard. I needed to make my legs work. I turned around and started running as fast as I could. Behind me, I can hear this thing's feet making a loud pounding sound. I know this sounds crazy, but I could feel this thing's hot, rancid, smelling breath on the back of my neck. I don't know how, but I got out of the part of the path that was in the woods. To get to my truck, I had to walk about 45 yards. I can't get my keys out of my pocket without fumbling. God bless, the car wasn't locked. I ran to my truck and turned on the lights right away. It was parked so that it faced a forest. When I turned on the light and saw the path, I almost peed my pants. I would. It looked like something from my worst nightmare. As I write this, it gives me chills to just think about this thing. At least 7, 8 feet tall, this thing. On the movie, it kind of looks like a werewolf. Silver bullet. It just sat on its hind legs and looked at me. This was a big deal. Any big bodybuilder would be jealous of that. I tried to take a picture with my phone, but by the time I unlocked it and turned it on, the camera had already moved into the woods. I took a picture, but all you could see was a blurry black shape. I called my mum and told her to lock all the doors and keep the shotgun close by. I couldn't tell her the truth about what I had seen. I said I saw a black-clad person creeping around. I've only told this to one other person, and they didn't know, but I know they think I'm crazy, so I just don't talk about it anymore. I know that this beast could have caught me, but it didn't. I think it just wanted to scare the crap out of me or something. I think it gets something from the fear it makes. This has been going on for 2 years. Since then, I haven't seen it, but I have heard something scratching on the side of my trailer a few times. I can sometimes hear coyotes barking and howling. Then I hear this deep wolf howl, and the coyotes stop barking. But there are no wolves in Louisiana, so I don't know where it came from. I know what it is then. I just started going back into the woods again, but never before dawn and never without a rifle, shotgun, or at least a pistol. I beg anyone who wants to find these animals not to, because it could ruin your life. Stay safe in the woods, and God bless. My story takes place when I was 14 years old 4 years ago. On our 370-acre property, where we live, I wanted to go hunting. It took a while, but I finally got my grandfather to agree that I could go hunting by myself when it was time to go. I could not have been happier. I got my molly bag and crossbow and then hopped on my dirt bike to go hunting. I got to my grandpa's property around 8:0 am and saw all the do not trespass signs. I didn't care about them and sprayed dopey on everything I owned so that no one could smell me. I ran to the tree stand I liked best. I'm walking up to my tripod when I hear a loud crash. A tree has fallen. But I thought it was a coincidence that when I kept climbing, another train fell soon after, so I stopped. At this point, I'm really worried and looking off into the distance. A high-pitched scream came from far away all of a sudden. I couldn't tell you much about it because I'm mostly deaf and have an implant in my ear that helps. I almost reached the top when I saw a huge buck running for its life. I quickly slide down and grab my crossbow when all of a sudden I see a huge figure that looks like a dog staring right at me. Now, it is standing up on its back legs. When my great-grandfather shows up on an I was too scared to move, TV, and tells me to hurry up. My hunting buddy and I get on, and we leave later. I won't tell you his name, but he told me a story about a figure that looked like a black dog and would roam the woods. I think it was a Dogman. If you ever see one in Roscommon County, Michigan, you should run. A few years ago, I saw what I think was a Wendigo or maybe a Dogman. I was riding my bike down an old, quiet 2-track near my house to check out 100 acres of land whose price had dropped a lot. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I saw a person about 10 to 12 feet tall walk about 50 yards ahead of me across the property line. The person was moving in a straight line. I stopped my bike quickly and looked ahead to get a better look. The figure's bat legs were turned around. It had a strange neck, and its eye was a clear yellow. The neck was so long it looked as though the thing could swallow an entire human in it. It didn't move up or down when it walked. Instead, it moved more like it was gliding. This figure seemed spiritual, not physical, and it soon disappeared. I went to look for tracks, but it looks like I didn't find any. When the land was finally sold, I went back to look at an RV. The land where the RV was for sale was the same land where I had seen the creature 6 months before. Seeing this brought back all of my memories of the thing. I wanted to ask the older owners if they had seen anything strange out here, but I thought that might be weird. I was there on business, so when I knocked on the couple's door, I had to be careful about what I said. They said something. I told them I was familiar with the area and was wondering if they had seen any wolves or other animals. The couple laughed and then yelled at the wolves. Then I changed the subject and went inside the RV, where I saw wolf pictures and wallpaper all over the walls. Indians and dream catchers were also talked about a lot. I didn't buy the RV, but what I saw makes sense. 6 months ago, he was either a Dogman or a Wendigo in spirit form. In 2007, when it happened, I was 18 years old. I heard about the Dogman when I was young, but I didn't really think he was real. As a child, I spent a lot of time playing in the woods. One warm day in autumn, we went to my grandmother's family cabin with my boyfriend and 2 other friends to see her. When we got there were also my 2 younger cousins. They wanted to go to the river on foot. So we all went, leaving my grandmother alone with my 2 young brothers. The boys wanted to race the 2 older boys as we walked up the hill. So when we got to the beginning of the path to the river, all 4 boys lined up, and I said, "Ready, set, go!" As the boys ran down the path, the girls yelled, "Run faster! Who's going to win?" Then, out of nowhere, a huge buck appeared. My boyfriend moves one of the kids out of the way by grabbing him. I saw the deer and went to find out where it came from. My whole family hunts a lot, and we haven't been quiet at all. This deer should have heard us long before we got close enough to see it, but it ran away before we did. I tried to figure out where it came from. I didn't think what I was seeing was real. My brain and I seemed to be fighting to figure out what was going on. It looked like a man with a dog's head when the big black dog stood there on 2 legs. It wasn't looking at me, but at my boyfriend. It looked like it had been running because it was out of breath. I look at my boyfriend and he looks back at me. But the others were watching the deer, and when I turned around, I saw it run back down the hill. When I ran up to my boyfriend, he looked at me with wide eyes. I could only say yes, I also saw it. Our 2 friends and the young boy didn't see it. So we went to the river and back to the cabin. Then we left, and my boyfriend and I didn't really talk about it. Later that night, more of my friends came over, and while they played, all the boys wanted to play Guitar Hero. I took their picture. We now live in an old farmhouse with my boyfriend. The floor to ceiling windows are about 6 or 7 feet tall, and in one of the pictures, you can see my sleeping dog on the floor and all of the boys. Well, it had been about a week or two since I took the picture, and my friend wanted to see all the photos I had taken that night, so I put them on my laptop. When she saw them, she yelled for me and my boyfriend to come. She zoomed in and saw a dog's face with its mouth open in the top corner of the window. After she left, my boyfriend and I just sat there and looked at it. We couldn't believe it. Had this thing followed us or found us in some way? Did it hate the deer? When I was 16 and a boy, it scared me to death. We lived in a farmhouse a mile back into the woods and up a steep gravel road in a hollow. In that hollow, it was the only house. It was winter one night. My dad woke me up in the middle of the night, gave me a 12-gauge single shotgun, 3 double-opped buckshot shells, and a flashlight, and told me to go out and shoot whatever varmint was scaring the pigs. So I got up, put on my clothes and boots quickly, and left through the back door. I got to the back porch before I stopped moving when I saw what was after the pigs. I shined my flashlight on something that looks like it came from a werewolf movie. It was leaning over the fence of the pig pen and grabbing at the pigs as they ran back and forth and squealed. It stood up, bared its teeth, and growled at me when it saw me. It was at least 7 feet tall, and maybe even more. Its upper body was like that of a pro bodybuilder. It had a huge head like a German police dog, and was covered in black hair. I would never forget those snouts and ears that stuck out. I held the flashlight against the barrel of the shotgun, raised it, and shot it right in the middle of its chest. I was about 40 feet away, and even though the buckshot pulled the hair on its chest apart, it didn't seem to hurt this thing very much. Back behind me, my sister came out to see what was going on. She turned on the porch light as she was leaving, and when she saw what was there, she gasped. She said, "Gee!" "What's that?" in a trembling voice. I said, "I'm not sure. Come back inside." I took apart the shotgun, ejected the spent shell, put another shell in the barrel, and closed it with a click. The beast went down and grabbed a pig with one hand. It then pushed the pig's head back with the other hand, and I heard a loud pop. The pig's neck had been broken, and it died right away. The pig went limp, and the beast threw it over its shoulder. Then it showed me its much too long teeth and growled again. As I raised the barrel of the shotgun towards it, it turned and jumped at least 15 feet in one jump. It went toward the line of trees. I shot at it and tried to hit the middle of its back. I think I've hit it again, but I'm not sure. Then it made another jump that was impossible, and it went into the trees. My dad came outside and asked what it was. "What's that?" I told my dad, "I don't know, but I know it was big." Whatever it was, it killed one of our pigs. Dad said, "She hit it with your shot, didn't she?" I told my dad, "Yeah, I got it, Dad. I'm pretty sure I hit it at least once, but it still ran away. I have no idea what it was." My dad told me to unload the gun, put it back on the wall and go back to bed. As he told this story, he looked scared. He said that he and his sister talked about it at the bus stop the next day and decided not to tell anyone what had happened because they didn't think anyone would believe them. Anyway, he told us that he had never told anyone else about the event before. He swore that every word was true. I am not sure if this I don't know if say is real or not, but I think I saw something and took a picture of it. I think it might have been a Bigfoot that screamed and broke through those small trees. I think G might have seen a Dogman when I told what happened to the BFRO. After a week of getting the report, they called and asked if they could send field investigators to my house. It looked like they didn't care about anything. They wanted to return to where we had set up camp. I got close to them and pointed them in the right direction, but we couldn't get any closer than a few miles. Before I end this story, I should also say that many people who lived up there that year saw military people on the ground and in helicopters. But in any case, these stories are all true. Thank you for what you do, and please keep up the good work. My meeting was very short, but I hope you find it interesting. Still, I was hunting deer, and I kept hearing something rustling around my stand, almost as if it was going in a circle. I could keep seeing something through the bushes. I thought it might be a pig or something. Then I smelled something awful, like a skunk, a wet dog, and something dead. I will never forget what I saw next. This thing looked as big as any dog I've ever seen. I came out from behind the bushes. It was on all fours and went back inside quickly. I only caught a glimpse of this thing, but I know what I saw. I didn't waste any time after that. I was pretty sure I'd just seen the Michigan Dogman I'd heard about my whole life. I quickly packed up everything I could and got the hell out of there. No longer do I hunt. We live in the woods, so I'm always aware of what's going on around me. What I saw, no one could stop even if they wanted to. Thank you for telling my story. Even though I only saw it for a second and it was very quick, I'm sure it was the Dogman. No natural wolf or dog could be that big, even if it walked on all fours. My daughter told me the following story. So, what happened was that my daughter, who was still living at home and in her first year of cosmetology school, and a friend went to a show in Wichita. On the way home, they took a country road to cut over from a highway to our house. As they came around a bend in the road, their headlights swept across the road in front of them, and someone was standing near the guardrail. They said that the bridge made of concrete looked like a werewolf. When they told me, the girls were so scared that it took a while for them to calm down enough for me to get some sense out of them. The road goes from north to south. It was seen about a quarter of a mile from town. The bridge is just a small one that goes over a runoff creek. I think the Dogman was too big to go under it, so he had to go over it and was coming up the draw-off on the creek bottom. The wrong thing happened at the wrong time. My daughter's car was a small Chevy Cavalier. She told me that the lights didn't reach the front of the car, so it didn't have any eye shine. But it was very big. It was black and about the size of a cow on all fours in height and width. All they could see was the head and the big, sharp teeth. She said that when it pulled back its lips and growled at them, it could have reached out and touched their car, but it didn't. She screamed and stepped on the gas. When they got to town, they both looked back because they were so afraid it was following them. She wiped away her tears and said, "I think we just saw a werewolf." "Mom, I really do remember that the hair on the back of my neck stood up." She said, "Mom, you don't get it," when I asked her if she was sure she hadn't seen a Sasquatch. I had never seen a bigger wolf than this one. It was a werewolf, not a Bigfoot. I didn't know what they saw, but they were very scared, so I told her never to drive at night on that road again. I felt pretty hopeless. 10 years later, I heard a story on your YouTube channel called Dogman, and it all made sense. I thought, oh my god, those two girls saw this in Kansas of all places. I put the YouTube video in the middle, and she looked pretty shocked. It was good to know that this was real. Hopefully that helps. East of the road, about 2 or 3 miles away, there is a river. They saw it on, but it was pretty dark outside that night, so they couldn't see it well. All they could see was that the front shoulders and chest seemed to have teeth. That's all the information I got. My family is from the Dominican Republic. People there don't believe in the supernatural very much, so you don't hear much about strange things happening there. Some information about my dad. He is 6 feet and 1 inch tall, very active, and loves to fish. My dad had never seen what I think of as a dogman until one night. He and 4 of his friends went fishing one night in a dangerous place. On one side of the road, there were sugarcane fields, and on the other side, you could see the ocean. If you weren't careful, you could fall off the road and die. My dad says that it was peaceful. It was one of those times when you could hear anything. Lots of dogs barking and animals walking could be heard. He said that he had a strong feeling in his gut that someone was walking or watching him. He looks everywhere, but doesn't find anything. About 10 minutes later, he goes to look again, but nothing is there. His friend says, "Hey, the closest gas station is about 7 miles away, and it's too dark to walk there." So, they decided to take the motorcycle they had put on the back of the Jeep. My dad says that about halfway back to the gas station, he sees a black figure running through the hard sugarcane like it's nothing, and he starts to think it's all in his head. So he leaves it alone at first. About 5 minutes later, his friend stops the motorcycle, turns off the engine, and tells my dad to be very quiet because a black figure with 4 legs is following them. He thought it was a dog at first, but when he saw that it had long legs that looked like those of a person, he knew it was something very dangerous. My dad says that the creature or thing stood up on 2 legs and looked at them for what seemed like an eternity. It was about 7-8 feet tall and had a grey, dark fur. It had long hands that looked like they belonged to a human and a snout that looked like it belonged to a German shepherd. It had sharp teeth all the way down its snout. He says that it looked like a human and had blue eyes. The deep, chill growl and deep, creepy howl before jumping back to the sugarcane was the creepiest part of this encounter. My dad says that every time a dog howled at night, he got a high fever and chills for a week. He says that after what happened to him, he never fished at night again. You might think I'm crazy, but I've seen this thing twice in the space of 3 months. After that, I left the area. In 1989, when I was 16 and had just gotten my driver's license, my brother sold me. T-top camera. I heard about an old auction house in the middle of nowhere. I asked around because I was bored and wanted to hang out with some people. It turned out to be a mile from where I lived, which was handy if you want to put it that way. I can send you a picture from Google Maps of the roads I was on when the two events happened. You will see that they are only about 3 miles apart and are surrounded by woods on both sides. So I went to the auction and made friends with a guy named Bob. For this video, he asked me for a ride home because he was trying to hook up with the auctioneer's daughter. He didn't catch his ride. So we stayed up late because, as I said, he was trying to meet a girl. After the auction ended, it was about 11 p.m. When we finally left, it was late at night and pitch black. As I drove down the road, the auction was going on, and we came to a turn that was closer to the wood line than the straightaway. As we got closer to the curb, Bob yelled at us to stop, so I slammed on the brakes because I thought he was crazy. Then he whispered, "Look to the right." I did see a pair of red eyes about 2 feet off the ground that were glowing. I asked Bob, "Is that a coyote?" Said, he thought of a coyote because of the way its eyes looked, but coyotes are orange, not red. I said, "Well, do you have a weapon? And do you have a permit to hunt coyotes?" He told them both, yes. In the rural parts of Kentucky, people often carry guns that they keep hidden. He took a .22 long revolver out of his coat and got out of the T-top. He pulls out his gun and fires all 6 bullets into the spot where the eyes are. He then jokes that we should go get something to eat. I bent down to get a flashlight from the glove box. As I did, I saw the eyes again, but they were now 8 feet tall instead of 2 feet. At that point, I slammed on the gas pedal while still bent over to get the glove box, and Bob screams, "Man, what the hell?" I told her that we would come back in the morning to get it. When we went back, there was neither blood nor a dead animal. We did find one large dog-like footprint and broken limbs that were about 7 feet tall. What could have been there is crazy to think about. I never told anyone about this afterward, but I know it was a Dogman. Thanks for listening to these scary stories about Dogman. If you liked them, please click the like button. It really helps me out.